chains. Ice is cold, but we're aflame. Skate the line, fight the game. Bruins Digest, call the name. Black and gold, we own the night. Clenched fists never lose the fight. Puck drops hard, flood the ice. Bruins Digest, we ignite. Bruins Digest, feel the rush. No holding back, no gentle touch. Bruins pride, it bleeds so true. Boston roaring, breaking through. Helmet cracked with shattered dreams. This is the fight of frozen steam. Face off grid, the roaring screams. Bruins Digest, pure extremes.
Bruins news is lighting up the NHL right now. We have so much stuff to cover here in this stream, going over today's videos, as well as everything that we've had so far on the Boston Bruins with the free agency, the draft, only days away. We're going to be covering it all here in this live stream just before we head over to the NBA draft this evening in a few hours here. So we're going to do around a little hour, and I'll send you guys off, for those who do watch the NBA, to that draft. But how is everybody doing? Wait a few minutes here before we jump in to our new kind of little setup going. I hope you did enjoy the new intro video that we have for the stream. We got an outro video, we got a new song. Things are getting good for us here on Bruins Digest, as well as the Bruins here in the NHL. And we're going to be touching on, as I mentioned, a lot of stuff from today's videos, Don Sweeney's press conference a couple hours ago. We're going to be going over kind of a few free agent options, some draft options, a little bit of everything here today. And I kind of want to start off going over some familiar stuff that we've had over the past, kind of couple days here. Going over first, Morgan Geekie, or Henry Occhiario, actually. Let's jump into him first. This is the cap space that we're kind of looking at, or the projected AAV from AFP Analytics for a Henry Occhiario. And we've kind of spoken about, that's not the right screenshot. What does that mean there? Okay, we'll figure that out later. We'll jump into that. But, of course, looking at these defense, we need another right-handed defenseman. And I think that looking at a guy like Henry Occhiario, it is fair to say he would be a fit that a lot of people would be okay with for the Boston Bruins. I know some of you guys probably just coming off here from this video, so I want to get your guys' opinion on this while we kind of catch up here with the chat and everything, and the first stream in a little while. This week has been very warm as well for us up here in Newfoundland, too. I gotta say, hello, Mason. How's everybody going? King Matse? I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but how are you? From Germany, kind of late over there, I think, isn't it? It shouldn't 12:30 in the night, 1:30, something along the lines of that, shouldn't it? I think I got my time zones right. Hope everybody is doing well, though, and as we head for a cool evening, hopefully, because it is very, very warm right now, especially with my computer and all these lights on. But, yeah, the Bruins got a lot, as I mentioned. Kind of a lot of stuff coming up, and I want to touch on just a bit of a brief look over it today as we're kind of trying to get a few more live streams here throughout the offseason. And now with the draft, NBA draft tonight, NHL draft Friday, July 1st free agency. Probably wasn't going to be enough time to get a kind of a stream every now and then, but hopefully we can kind of cover all this now in a stream together and throughout the videos over the next couple days as we get throughout here, because we got a lot of stuff coming through. I am from St. John's. Yeah, hopefully there's a few Newfoundlanders in here. I know we have a few on the channel. But how's it going, everybody? Wolf Moon, how are you doing? From Ontario. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Morgan Geekie. That's one I want to touch on, Mason. That's a good way to kind of turn it off, or start it up here from, turn off the Henry Occhiario stuff, turn on the Morgan Geekie stuff. And this is the contract projection for Morgan Geekie. We're looking at 4 by 6.5. This is something that I think a lot of people are okay with. I think a lot of people also find it a little bit expensive on that side of, is he going to do it again? Can he do this again? This season, of course, is a very, very, big season to try and, duplicate again next year. And I'll jump into our little graphics scene here. I think I have, don't have it in full screen here, but we go over to Morgan Geekie's stats. 77 games, 57 points, 33 goals. And going over from December on, that was really when we saw him really kick into gear and start up on that kind of tear he had all season. So if that contract is one that the Bruins would be willing to give him, and it certainly seems like, according to AFP Analytics, that they'd be working on it, and going over from what Don Sweeney had to say in today's press conference, it's a big it's a big jump from where he's right now, 2.2 million or 2 million. I can't remember exactly what it is, up to 6.5. But the Bruins do have the cap space, so if they want to lock him up for 4 years, it's not a bad contract, even for a couple more seasons down the line when the cap does start to rise. And exactly. His contract pretty much is what DeBrusk made. So, I guess you can kind of think of him as a replacement for Jake DeBrusk. And there have been some reports out there kind of going over the idea of, trying to get a DeBrusk replacement. But I think we already have that in a guy like Morgan Geekie, who's, I don't want to say better, but looking to be a little bit better. But, it could be something that would be very, very good if he does continue it, but I think it's going to be very hard to replicate 33 goals. And I feel like that's what a lot of you guys have been kind of saying in the comments below, and you see, I see it right now. It is too much. It is a little bit too much for a guy like Morgan Geekie. I don't want to say, like, it will be, but right now, I think it just is a little bit. If it were a $5 million contract, that's something I'd be a bit more comfortable with on the ability to, make it happen again, or, his stats compared to his contract, more so than a 6.5. That's quite a bit, but Alberta, love it. Oh, it's kind of crazy how many Bruins fans are from Canada as well. I didn't know until I actually started doing this channel and live streams and stuff, started talking to you guys, that there's a lot of Canadians that are actually just Bruins fans as well. I guess it makes sense, Original Six, but still, you think it'd be one of the Montreal or Toronto, one of those two, and that's as well, that's one thing I want to point out as well. Seems to click well with Pastrnak, and I have the line somewhere here. I don't know where. I mean, I should have the line somewhere here. I don't have the line somewhere here. Okay, so when we're looking at the lines, of course, Morgan Geekie was on the left, Pastrnak was on the right. It was either Lindholm or Zacha in the middle. Anyway, I think that clicks. Pasta and Geekie. If you put Zacha in the middle, that's fine. If you put Lindholm in the middle, that's fine. If you get another center who is a real point getter, it works out to be a very, very, very good line. And, it may be a little bit underrated line, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking here at this team thinking, Morgan Geekie, look at his previous stats, and I do have those. I know I have those here somewhere, right here. You look at Geekie's previous few stats, he doesn't necessarily look like a $6.5 million player. And even at 57 points, I still don't think he really looks like a $6.5 million player. But the way that you make him play with Pastrnak, and the way you make him play with, just say you do go ahead and draft a center here in this one, or you go out and trade for a center, or you have someone come up from inside the organization right now and play center, whether just like Marco Rossi, that contract would be 7 point some odd here, and probably like a 7.4, let's call it, $1 million deal. That would be an expensive first line. You have 11.4, what is it for Pastrnak, a 7.4 for a guy like Marco Rossi, and then you have 6.5 for Geekie. Things like that could be tough, but if it works very, very well. St. John, New Brunswick, Paradise. Where's everybody watching from? I see some Germany. I see some Alberta, some Maine, New Hampshire, St. John, Nova Scotia. Man, we're all over. Bruins Digest is worldwide. We are worldwide, ladies and gentlemen, even though our European percentage is not as great as North America. But I mean, it's only granted. But what we do need a number one centerman, Don. That is very true. I think that's one of the priorities that we need to really tackle here for this offseason. I don't necessarily think it needs to be a number one priority, but I think it should be one that is, if not number one, it has to be 2 or 3. It has to be done soon. So when we get that done, when that kind of deal comes in, we know that we're going to have the centers. We have so many young ones, but not enough to actually confidently go out here and win a Stanley Cup or get back to the playoffs. Like, I personally, at least, don't trust right now a guy like Matt Poitras, who hopefully will be in the NHL again next year. Hopefully he'll actually get his feet underneath him and be able to stay here. I don't trust him as a number one center just yet. Not saying not in the future I won't, but right now it's not there. He's just too young. Not enough experience. I think that's the big issue as well. Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Regina, Czech Republic. I told you, we got some European. We got some European here. Love it. I love it. I'm assuming that would be because David Pastrnak, Pavel Zacha, perhaps, but you never know. You never know. Question. I see an Italian jersey in the background. Are you a fan of the team? I was a very big soccer head in the past, 2014 to 18. I always loved the Italy international team. So I had a jersey, had one. Want to throw it in the background, kind of mix it up, get a little bit. And now, one thing, though, that I will be probably replacing with, I know I don't really want to replace the Italy jersey. It's kind of been a staple here on the channel. But these jerseys, I want to get your guys' thoughts on them, too. These jerseys are phenomenal. Way better than the Centennial jerseys. I did love those. Wasn't a fan of the sparkle, but the thicker lines on the bottom, the colors, the logo, the rebrand, I love it all. And we're gonna touch on the captains here in a moment as well, but one of these jerseys will be right here, right here on the wall sooner rather than later. Once we get everything back into the season and get ready, and after the draft and free agency, I don't want to go get a jersey and someone be no longer on the team for a couple days later. But I do really like these. I want to get your guys' opinion as well. Brady Martin, that's one that we're going to touch on a little bit here, in a little bit as well, too, is the draft. We have some more quotes from Don Sweeney coming out about the 7th overall pick, what he's planning on doing with those moves, what they're planning on doing with the whole kind of draft, I guess. I don't want to say with the pick because it may be traded. We really don't know just yet. Don Sweeney necessarily hasn't really said that he's going to make the pick. He said he's going to take the best available option, which didn't specify player, didn't specify trade. So I think that's something we're going to have to keep a pretty close eye on now for, I guess really tomorrow and Friday morning, or even during the draft as well. Don't know the plans for the draft. I probably won't be live. I could be. You never know. So hit the sub button if you haven't already to get a notification for that. But we're going to be doing videos either just after, during, or something like that when the Bruins pick comes up for us. Knowing your GM, he won't be trading the highest pick in some years, something. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, David, too. I kind of mentioned that in the video in the past. I know Matt Barzal is in the thumbnail here. I think it either has to be Matt Barzal, Bo Horvat, or Noah Dobson in that trade if they want the 7th, if the Bruins actually, want to win the trade. Other than that, I think that it's very, very tough to justify making that move and kind of losing out on a player that will make a big impact, not just in a few years, but hopefully for a little while now as a number 1 center that we could hopefully get at some point. And, I think Dean Letourneau was what they thought that was going to be last year. Definitely was not it. And I think that Don Sweeney really kind of reiterated that again today. And yes, and Poitras does need to bulk up if he wants to play in the middle. He needs to gain some size. He's already tall. He's a great player. Good defensive mind. He got the mindset, the skills for it. He just needs to get bigger to be able to dominate the puck, dominate in the corners, and dominate in front of the net, just like we're hoping he at least at some point would be. And, as well, that's what I see someone saying there, Don, that a winger that can play center. That's one thing that I think we really should kind of utilize in the top 6. I feel like Pavel Zacha is that really. I don't think that he's more so, the one that we're looking for, but having more centers that can play the wing is just as useful as you can get because, well, not just in game, but a guy that gets thrown the face off, throw a winger in, but you can also mix things up very, very well. And I think that's what the Bruins want to try and get out of, and I think that's why they're trying to get some of these centers, get some of these wingers, and trying to overall boost the offense to be able to get to that point where they have no worries at all at any point throughout the offense on the lineup. And Mason, Ryan Lindgren, that's one. And Korpisalo, if Korpisalo could just go anywhere, completely fine by me. That's good. It gets rid of the $3 million in cap and the few years. Bring up Michael DiPietro. Let Brandon Bussie get the start in the AHL and go from there. I think that works out very well. But Ryan Lindgren is someone that I want to see with this team. Now, I made a video on him, and he has a left-hand shot on the right side, which I'm not really sure how Don Sweeney would like that idea. And we do have the defense here on this screenshot here. And throwing Ryan Lindgren on a second line with Zadorov, that's one line, that I don't really know how it would work out really well without actually kind of seeing it. I feel like Zadorov without Jokiharju worked really, really well, but a guy like Ryan Lindgren who is a big kind of defensive style player with a guy like Zadorov. That's a very defensive line, but I feel like you want to generate more offense with the Zadorov on that line, and that's where Jokiharju really, I think, found the ability to make Nikita Zadorov play at the top of his game, and also playing, first-line minutes pretty much with the injuries to Lindholm and McAvoy. Ryan Lingard could be good in this lineup, but it really is just a lot of questions of where you would put him and how, specifically on this Bruins team, a left-shot defenseman would work on the right side. I think that's where a guy like Dante Fabro comes into play as well, who may be a bit more expensive, but can play the right side, is a very good defenseman, and will likely be kept by Columbus, but if he wants out, he could be a very hot trade commodity. Excuse me. It's very, very warm. But we move. We got stuff to cover. We got a lot of Bruins news to come in. Connor, that's one thing I'm in the mindset of as well, is that DiPietro, Bussy, no longer under contract. I think the only way that you could keep DiPietro, as reports have been kind of coming out that he is being monitored by many NHL teams. I think it was upwards of 6. I can't remember who said that, if it was LeBron or someone like that, but a lot of teams are looking in on Michael DiPietro to be, I guess, an NHL backup. I think he could even start in the NHL, be like kind of one of those mid-tier starters. But if you can make him a backup and kind of give him that job for sure, I think that he'd be okay with it. I think that with the idea of Swayman being here, although it is an 8-year deal, he's going to be the future starter, like the starter of the future, as he already has been. Giving DiPietro the ability to come in and play more games there could kind of up his salary, But I think there's a lot of things like that. But he definitely wants to play. I think that's the Bruins' biggest issue right now, is that he probably won't want to be a backup for Swayman, but it could be. I don't really know what he's thinking or the idea of there, but let's just hope he'd be willing to re-sign with the Bruins. But it's a very tough kind of decision to make if you're not the player himself thinking about that, which, we'll probably not get any information until he's either signed somewhere else or re-signed with the Bruins. Lindholm, not worth $6.5 million trade him. Now, that's one that is, I understand where you're coming from. I feel like, especially after what we saw last year, the injury to Lindholm, how absent he felt, and he did start off, pretty good last year. The team really fell apart after he got injured, and, it fell apart before that, but Lindholm at 31 years old, $6.5 million, 4 years left on that deal, or, 5 years, because this next upcoming season is going to be year 4. That's a lot of money to be able to justify for, what will be a 36-year-old, but when that contract gets up and up and up, and in the years, the salary cap's going up as well, and it will make that kind of seem like probably a Mason Lohrei contract right now, and I guess that's something we can talk about here in a little bit as well. But it's a contract that looks a bit iffy right now, but will be good and a bit better in a couple of years. But Lindholm was still a very good defenseman. I think we missed him a lot last year, and we kind of forgot how good he was. And I think with McAvoy, whoever you pair him with, whether you put Lohrei up there, there's a lot of options, and I'm very curious to see what they end up doing here. David, yeah, I kind of agree as well. Trading the pick, and I think we can jump into that here now as well. Trading this pick, where is it? Yeah, I'll pull up this one here. This tweet from Mick. There's 2 takeaways from GM Don Sweeney's kind of press conference today. The Henry Jokiharju, trying to get him back, but taking the best player available at 7. That's what the kind of idea that was portrayed here. Now, when it does come down to it, and we do look at these players that are available here, there's some very good ones. Now, this is Tankathon, and this is one that I kind of used to because it's much cleaner for a video like this or a live stream. But when you're looking at the ones that I think are more important, Craig Button, Bob McKenzie, those are the analysts that I trust mostly for my draft stuff here on TSN. That's their specialty. They're here for to be, that's their main idea. That's their job. And I think that one is one I trust, where you see James Hagens dropped down to 7th. However, I still don't see that happening. Nearly every other one has James Hagens going 5 and up early, which I think is the fair spot for him. But Porter Martone, if he does drop to 7, we take him. What do you think about that? I think it's a kind of a no-brainer. He is a winger, but 98 points in 57 games with Mississauga this year. He's a phenomenal player, and it's very, very tough to kind of pass up on Porter Martone. I think, yeah, you guys got the same reaction here right now as well. But let's just try to go off what we think is going to happen. Let's just kind of break down. I think Matthew Schaefer, Michael Misa, Anton Frondel, Caleb Denoyer, James Hagens, Porter Martone. I think those are going to be the top 6. I think fair to say that. I can see James Hagens maybe dropping down to 6, but if you have a guy like Brady Martin, who at 7 is what many Bruins reports are kind of saying right now about who are going to be drafting. Brady Martin, I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with Jake O'Brien, Roger McQueen. Those 3 are the ones that I'm a bit, if they're there, we take them. I think that's what I kind of like there. Anybody else, I'm not too sure of. Victor Eklund, he's a good player, but not really what we're looking for right now. He's a bit smaller. Roger McQueen, 6'5". He's a big boy. He's going to be a great player. But there's a lot of moving parts that we still have no idea what to even really project yet, because we can't forget as well, James Hagens was projected number 1 before this season. Now, at the start of the season, he went down to 2, and then now he's at 5 in this case, but 7 from Bob McKenzie, 8 for Craig Button. So I think there's a lot of moving parts here that we're yet going to be even finding out until that pick is up and those guys are off the board, which I think makes this draft so exciting for not just us, but for many of the teams in the top 10 here. Porter Martone, you can't complain about him. He's going to be a great player, and if he does 7, you can't not take him. Yeah, and I agree, Connor. There's not much of a difference between 4 through 10. I think Caleb Denoyer, I've seen him drop. I would be very, very okay with him as well. Before he moved up over the last few weeks, he was projected to the Bruins, was the one I wanted. Anton Frundell being compared to Alexander Barkov, that's a phenomenal comparison. I think something that the Bruins would like to try to get. Obviously, that one's probably going to be out of the possibility. I think 1, 2, and 3 are kind of, I don't want to say confirmed, but it seems like all but confirmed. And after that, I'd be okay with really anybody. A lot of similarities there, but there's a lot of risks for some of these players as well. Yeah, injury situation for McQueen is a bit questionable. I think that's why he's so low right now. You see 17 games, 20 points. So in those 17 games, great numbers, but it just is a bit of a risk there. I know many teams that will probably be willing to take him if they're not looking for him right away. But apart from that, I think that a lot of teams are going to be trying to move into this top 10. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bruins were to try and move up. Moving down out of this, I think is a tough option, unless, like we said, they get a Matt Barzal or something like that. Or a Noah Dobson. Ilya Samsonov. That's an interesting one because, good goalie. He's a good goalie, but, when you're looking at a backup, you want someone that could play those games. He marks that category. He ticks off all those boxes. Would he be, taking a bit of a better contract than what you would see for a guy like Jonas Korpisalo? That's where I'm not too sure, but I think he'd be a good backup. I think he fits well. And Martone does fit very, very well as well. At 6'3", 205, compared to Anton, or apart from Anton Frundell, sorry, he is the biggest forward on this chart, size-wise 6'3", 205. He's solid. He is exactly what I think a lot of these Bruins prospects we want to be built like. Just be able to throw the body around, shoot the puck. Just everything works so well for Porter Martone. And if he's there, we take him, no doubt. Yeah, it is a big red flag there for McQueen. But I think when we go to this draft, it looks very, very interesting and enticing for a lot of these teams. And who's to say that you don't see even I think Philadelphia and us are going for Brady Martin right now. That's what it looks like. Other than that, you have a lot of names here that could be trying to move up. I know Montreal has a pick at 15 and 16 that they're trying to move into or trying to move up, or I don't know exactly what they're trying to do right now, but I know they're trying to get up, a few other teams trying to get up, and there could be a lot of moves where someone maybe tries to climb up and take someone off the board. I know it's kind of crazy, but we have seen it before, and I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, especially in this year's draft. Swayman to Edmonton for Skinner and Hyman. That's something that I think is going to be talked a lot about this summer. I feel like the Oilers are, once again, I made a video on this a couple days ago. They're trying to get back into conversations with the Bruins and try and get Swayman. I think it's very tough that they're going to try and justify trading Swayman after giving him that contract only after 1 year, because we've seen that he can do it. I think last year was just a very off year, and it's kind of tough to be able to justify doing that, but I'm not 100% counting something like that out. I don't know about Skinner and Hyman specifically, but something like that, I'm not counting it out whatsoever. Do you know if the Bruins have any trades coming? Now, okay, this is an interesting one because we've had a few, and I don't think I have any screenshots here for this. I don't. There's a few options the Bruins have had kind of reported as of late. Now, I don't want to kind of say anything is coming because I'm not an insider. I like to look at insider stuff and put it here on YouTube because, just like talking about the Bruins. But Pavel Zacha has been in the realm of possibility. We've seen Pavel Zacha be, a lot of teams looking at him as a center-winger combination, trying to free up a bit of cap for the Bruins if they want to go somewhere else, try and sign a big-name free agency player. I think there is a lot of options that could come out here for this team. Now, is he going to be traded? I think it's tough because, right now he's your number 2 center, sitting right behind Elias Lindholm, and he also played a lot of first line last year. So I think if they can get the right value for him, it may not be a bad decision if they can get another kind of player to flip him for. Not a horrible idea. Now, Morgan Geekie has been also linked in some trades. Now, I will also look and see if I can find where this was. The TSN trade board had a few players on it. It had Pavel Zacha and Morgan Geekie both in trade talks. And I think that a Geekie one is something that could be very interesting. If they do not find enough value in him for his, contract, like, as I mentioned, this one right here, 4x6.5. If they got that deal for a guy like Morgan Geekie, or if Morgan Geekie wanted more, and as Don Sweeney said, I do have the quote here somewhere, right here, yeah. He said there's been constant communication. Are we on the doorstep? I don't think so, but that can change within one phone call. And if they end up feeling a bit too, not pressured necessarily, but like they need to go and get Morgan Geekie, and they thought that he will not re-sign, and if they trying to push a contract that is just a bit too much out, that's where we get a bit iffy on if you do trade him or not. You could trade Zarafay Rice. You could do a sign and trade. I think that the value could be there, depending on what he would want, but I'm not too positive on any of the potential trades that could be coming out of it. But those are the two names that, look to be in trade talks, at least right now. I don't think the Bruins are going to be too active just yet, but I'm still going to be looking for that. Here, this is one of the articles I saw. He's making $4.75 for the next 2 years. Even so, it's doubtful Zacha gets Boston first-round pick. Sometimes more like a second-rounder can get the ball rolling. Perhaps the Bruins are looking for a Toronto Maple Leafs paid for Scott Laughton at the end at this year's trade deadline. Yeah, let's not go Scott Laughton-style deal, but if you get a first for Zacha, that could be something interesting as well. Now, depending on if it would be this year, if they see someone they like later on in the draft, that could be a possibility, but I think it would take a bit more than what Zacha's value is to trade him. To put it, I know I was going on for a while there, so it didn't put it in the simplest terms. To put it in terms that make sense for the Bruins to actually make this move. So, I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure, Mason, but I think it's possible that we could see a trade here or there. And even if it could be a pick trade as well, but players, not too certain. Just yet, at least. Now, free agency could change everything if we see one signing made, but I don't know. So we saw Brock Besser as well be an option. I think that's something that could free up a spot in the wing. If that does, that would be something very interesting. You'd have two very good top lines, and then your top six would kind of be revamped if you get some prospects in. Mr. Magic, how's it going? Okay. But the Bruins are going to kind of take a look at, I think, every option in this draft. And I think that whether it's going to be a winger, I think, could be the possibility. If they don't get someone in free agency that they want, and like Mason, like you just said there, they need a winger like Marner or Besser. They need a top winger. I think that's one thing that they need to get again. Now you have a lot of money allocated on the wing, especially if Geekie's going to get that contract that we've been kind of looking at, that 6.5. You have Pastrnak getting 11 plus. If you get a guy like Brock Besser who would be making, I believe, 8.5, that is a contract that is not a very easy one to take on for trying to add more. The Bruins do have enough cap space to do it. They have 23 million. 23 million. Okay, of course, with the last screenshot. You have 23 million to work with. So if you just say allocate that 6.5 to Morgan Geekie, go out, spend 8 on who we talk about, Brock Besser, that right there, that locks up 15 million. You have then 8 million to spend. You still have enough money. But I don't think Besser's the guy that will answer your questions and give you the answer that you're looking for. He's someone that is very solid and would fit on a lot of teams, but right now, with the way the Bruins are, you give him a contract by the time, and if things play out like they normally would, the Bruins try to get good, Besser is not that guy. He's a little bit too old for it. Isaac Howard. Okay, Mr. Magic, you're putting up some interesting stuff here now. Isaac Howard, with what the Lightning are going through, I think that they really don't have much to be able to, justify giving him. I feel like the Lightning are a team that are kind of all out of options at this point. They have to get rid of him because he won't want to play there. Just check and make sure there's no news here. Just making sure there's no news. But Isaac Howard, I think, is a player that his attitude wasn't great for the Lightning. I think it makes a lot of teams hesitant. But the Lightning have no leeway. They have no value that they can actually give him because he don't want to sign there. So they would have to trade him. They have no they have no pushback on his idea. So if someone offers even if it's much less than what they're probably thinking to get rid of him, they may have to accept it. So I think that could be an idea. Now, would the Bruins be willing to do it? I'm not sure. I think that he is a very good young player, and it would make sense to try and go out there as the Bruins to make that move, but I just don't know as of right now at this point. And they need to free up cap. There's no doubt about that. So it makes sense that they couldn't sign him. They want to get rid of some stuff, maybe even move another player to get rid of him. I think there's a lot of options there, and that's one that I want to keep an eye on. So thank you for putting that idea in my head. Nick Ehlers, that's another one. Okay. That's another one that we're going to talk about here now. Thank you for whoever said that. Ben Bryan. Okay. Nikolai Ehlers. What's the thought on him? Because, he is another player. I don't know how old he is compared to Brock Besser. Hold on now. Let me do some math. Because if I say that Brock Besser is a bit too old, then you look at a guy like Nikolai Ehlers. Questions could be, could be raised there. Now, I think that Brock Besser has, his injury history is not great. And it could be a little bit better, but Nikolai Ehlers, who is a year older, he's a year older than Brock Besser. But I still see Nikolai Ehlers being very, very good. I feel like he's going to be good for a long time, where I can see Brock Besser potentially slowing down, and Brock Besser also apparently has a deal close with Minnesota. Tough to kind of actually say because Nick Kypreos said that, and Nick Kypreos don't know what he's talking about. But that's an interesting one as well, because I think Nikolai Ehlers is probably one of the most underrated and skilled forwards in the NHL, and is someone that could be moved, which I think would be a very good fit for the Bruins. Kind of the same thing. It would really fit in that top six, solidify your top six, make your top six better, and be one of, probably the deepest top six in the NHL after what people are calling a retool/rebuild season. So that could be a very sneaky addition as well. But that's our point here. We need someone like the names that we just mentioned to be able to go and get there. I agree. Marchand of the Panthers still, obviously, congratulations to him because he played very, very well. His Instagram stories and stuff have been absolutely crazy. I've been really enjoying those. They've been very funny, but it does suck to see him win with the Panthers, but I'm happy to see him win, I just kind of, the rivalry is still going to be there between us and the Panthers, but the fact that we saved Marchand from the Bruins, I guess is a good way of putting it. It's a fine. I'm okay with it, but let's just not do it again. Let's just not see it again. He's also close to signing with the Panthers, apparently, once again. I don't know about the legitimacy of that report. However, I did see that on Twitter earlier. So that's something I think we can. I mean, we already kind of counted that out as well, but I think that's something as well that we can kind of put behind us. But Ekblad or Gavrikov, I don't really see Ekblad being a great fit here. I think he's going to stay in Florida, and that was also the report that we saw earlier. It was Ekblad, Sam Bennett, and Marchand are all trying to stay in Florida. I don't know how they're going to do it, but if they do, game is game. But Gavrikov's another interesting one. I think the Bruins just need one more solid defenseman, but regardless of solid or not, I think it needs to be on the right side, just to replace Ian Mitchell or, in this case, Victor Soderstrom. Although, if you do want to give Victor Soderstrom the chance, I'm not opposed. I'm really, really not opposed. But you want to have another defenseman there as a safety blanket because he obviously didn't work in the NHL. So what's making the Bruins think that he will be that superstar for them right now? It's just too tough to be able to say it free. And Jason Robertson from Dallas, that's one as well. He is also in the thumbnail. We haven't spoken on him yet. The Dallas Stars are in a very big predicament there on their side of things. They gave up Mason Marchment for pretty much nothing. Would have loved to see him on the Bruins. He would have been a phenomenal player. 6'5", big guy, exactly what we're looking for on the wing. But a guy like Jason Robertson, more skilled, younger, just a better player overall. I think that he will be a player that, if traded, the Bruins have to get in on. I don't care what it takes to get him. You go and you make that move. You get him on that team. But you have to get a guy like that. I think it's the bottom line. You need that one more star. You don't need to be a superstar, but you need that one more star to add to this forward group right now if you want to actually have a chance of competing next year. Yeah, I also agree with that. I understand what he's kind of going with it, like the change, and he never really wanted change, but going to Florida, I guess different fun. I feel like there's a lot of pressure off of him. I think that's why NL Rider that he kind of felt like that. But I think it was just a bad way of putting it. But I understand what he's trying to say. I think if he meant it that way. Because I think he kind of meant that it was just like it was a very exciting time. Wasn't the captain, didn't have the responsibilities, I guess. He was there to kind of just be that addition, that pest to the team like he was in his early Bruins career, which makes sense. So I think the Bruins will trade the 7th pick. Now, Bruins better. This is one thing we kind of spoke about a little tiny bit, but I really don't know. That's bad reporting. But it's very tough to say because there's so many moves that are projected to happen of teams moving in to the top 10. The Bruins, they're sitting at number 7. We know that, of course, right now it's partner Martone, but James Hagen's dropped down to 7th on Craig Button and Bob McKenzie's. If the Islanders are willing to make a trade for him, I can kind of see it, but it would need to be very, very good value for the Bruins. I don't think Don Sweeney wants to trade this pick, but I think he's not taking it out of consideration if the right offer is there. Rumors Philly's looking to remove Ristolainen. Could be an interesting right ad. Ristolainen's another interesting one because he was part of that group of defensemen that we were talking about on the Ryan Lindgren video, which was this morning. And Dante Fabro, Ryan Lindgren, Ristolainen, and there was another defenseman in there. I can't remember. I believe this was an Athletic article. I will pull it up. I'll see if I can find this once again and see if I can get this Athletic article or whatever article it was on. But that is one thing. That kind of defenseman, as a very similar defenseman to Nikita Zadorov, I think is what would best benefit the Boston Bruins. Now, it's kind of hard to say, another guy like Zadorov be there, a big player who's not really the offensive kind. But if you can generate enough offense through your forwards, keep the defense locked up, big guys solid, it will work. Kind of just go back to what we saw like a lot more normal in the past, rather than just kind of these Cale Makar style of defensemen that will skate the puck, Quinn Hughes, that'll, just kind of do it all on their own. These bigger defensemen, I think, have a lot more, not necessarily value, but are a lot better for the way the Bruins look right now than some of that. So Ristolainen, I don't hate it. And I think the cost would all be dependent as well, because I can't remember what his contract is, but if I recall, it is a little bit expensive. And I think the Bruins, if they can if they can get someone cheaper, like on that kind of thing, it would work out. What percentage of Bruins fans want Sweeney gone? I would say a lot. I would say a lot of them do. Now, I'm still on the side of giving him credit for the trade deadline last year. Of course, a lot of people are kind of saying, hey, this is your doing for trading Marchand. But I think that, Marchand wanted to go. He wanted to go. Or he didn't necessarily wanted to go, but, he said, if I go anywhere, I want to go to Florida. I think that the Bruins wanted to give him that chance because they know that they're not going in that necessarily direction that Brad Marchand would want. So I think it's fair. I think it's fair. Yeah, Sweeney's going to be... That's one thing as well. NL Ryder, that's a very good point. It's tough to kind of justify firing Don Sweeney when he's regarded as high as he is with, Team Canada, as you mentioned, being their GM and, replacing him would kind of be like, you're kind of following in some very big footsteps. Even though he may not have made some great decisions kind of overall, he's a very good GM, and he would go to another team immediately. And yeah, farm system they need to build. They need to do some stuff like that. The draft, that's why it's so important to kind of keep the 7th overall pick, I think, unless they can get a lot of prospects from a trade for it. Marco Rossi, there's a lot of stuff going on here from a lot of teams. The Bruins have been involved. I don't know to what extent, but he's one that would be very interesting. He would add to that center now. It would make another center at around $7 million, which would be a very tough thing for the Bruins to do. Of course, we have no move clause or no trade clause. One of the two on Lindholm, which would make him harder to move than what we'd ideally like. But, 5.1, okay, well, that's not that bad for a line. That's not bad at all. That contract will look a lot better in a few years. I don't know how many years he has left, but still, at 5.1, that's a doable contract. Brady Martin's from my hometown, decent potential. That's sick, Philly Buck. Have you seen him play? Have you seen him play live? I haven't seen him play live. I've seen him, highlights and stuff, but what does he look like? If you have seen him play live, what does he look like on the ice? I think that's something that's very different here. Comparing that to, watching people on TV and watching them on the ice, it's completely different. And I think that if you see him look good in real life, then that's something that not a lot of players get. And honestly, I hate to say it. I really do hate to say it. But this year, I saw a Habs game, and Lane Hutson just looked insane on the ice. He was so noticeable. The puck could be not even close to him, and that's the guy you focus on. It's crazy, and I hate to say it, but it really is just an unbelievable thing to actually see. Swayman for McDavid 1-for-1. I mean, maybe the Oilers say no, but I don't. I certainly say yes. Noah Dobson would be good for the power play, absolutely. He would certainly be very, very good for the power play, and I think that's who I want to see in the trade for number 7. If it happens, that solidifies your defense there. You're good to go for years. The only spot you have to probably replace is Lindholm, but I mean, other than that, you have a lot of stuff locked down. Then you'd be good to go. But I saw NL Ryder as well. You mentioned that as well, and I've seen there's a lot of new people coming in as well. So let's pop in again. What are the thoughts on the New Jerseys? Because I love them. I love them. Kind of the Centennial. I know, Connor. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to praise a Canadian. It is just crazy to see. I've been watching hockey for 20-something years, and that new style of defenseman is crazy. I think I would say the same with Makar, but I just hate to say it about a Canadian. I cannot stand it. I went with my buddies. They're all Habs fans, so I had to go and just watch it. So I apologize. I greatly apologize. It's not on purpose. Yeah, but these jerseys compared to the Centennial Classic ones are very nice. Not sparkly, which is better. The thicker stripes on the bottom just look so good. It just looks so good. You can't hate it. I don't think you can, at least. I'm expecting some interesting alternates as well. Hopefully a full yellow. That could be a bit interesting. I actually did not notice that in NL Ryder. That they only have one shoulder patch. I don't know how I didn't notice that, honestly, because I watched a full breakdown, tweet of the jerseys. I must just not been paying attention. But, if they had two, would be a little bit better. But I love them. I love them. And yes, very good point. Gold and or yellow socks has to be it. There's no excuse there. So a no trade clause and a no move clause. The difference between them. So there's a modified no trade clause, a modified no move clause. All of these kind of different ones that you come in there. So the no trade clause is you can waive it. I think there's hold on. Let me get the exact difference because I don't want to lie to you. But no move clause and a no trade clause. Okay, so the no move clause is pretty much the exact same thing, but you can't be placed on waivers, you can't be sent to the minors, and it's just a little bit of more protection, but either way, it's like basically you waive it if you want to be traded, and no trade clause, you can have a list if it's modified. Those are the, the chat GPT projections here. Mitch Marner. 14, oh my lord, 14.7 by 5. That's a hefty contract. Would not be willing to give him that. Sam Bennett at 7.75 by 5 for the Bruins? I mean, who says no? Who says no? Never know. But yeah, the captain as well. I honestly thought today they were going to announce Pastrnak as the captain, but they did not. I felt like, it probably would have been at least televised or something if it were to be a captain announcement, but it's one of these two, I think, no doubt, but I'm kind of leaning more towards Pastrnak if I were a betting man. But, apart from that, I think that we're probably going to see a few new A's as well, maybe. But, I don't know. I think that's what Marco Sturm is really... He's not going to announce anything yet. He said he wanted to wait and see, and, before training camp. I think there's going to be one announced, no doubt, but who it is, I think, will be up to Marco Sturm. Connor, okay, I want to pull this out into the chat here and see. A lot of people that I know, and a lot of my friends are Leafs fans. I know, like, especially in Canada, Habs, Leafs, that's all you get. But every Leafs fan I feel like I've ever heard talk about Mitch Marner, they hate him. But I think he was probably one of the best players on that team. I think he was a reason that he is, keeping it there. He was keeping that team in the playoffs. I don't know. I think it could be crazy, but that's just me. I would love to be on the Bruins, but way too much money, in my opinion. Yeah, and, I think it's very tough for Marco Sturm to kind of just say, hey, I'm going to make a captain right now, and I still don't really know the players just yet, so I think it's a fair decision. But, I feel like it will be David Pastrnak, but McAvoy is someone that I think would be a better option right now. I know, it just feels like that to me. I'm not really sure why. The Bruins take the best available from Boston College with pick 7. Michael, I mean, that seems to be what it's looking like right now. I do have the quote here. Once again, I'll pop this up. Where is it? Yeah, right here. Sweeney says the Bruins are still exploring their options as to what they'll do with the 7th overall pick, and then kind of comes out to saying that they will take the best overall player. And, it really does seem like, if available, it will be James Higgins. I think that's kind of, not the bottom line, but that's kind of what we're really pointing to right now. But overall, I think we're gonna see some movement. I think no doubt about that. And I just saw a tweet on my phone. Hold on, I have my phone on my side for getting notifications. I'm gonna pop this up really quick. It's from David Pastrnak. Actually, does he? Yeah. Kevin Holland admits he's open to trading a possible package of 24th overall pick for a top 9 forward. Now, could that be someone the Bruins have? Could that 24th overall, maybe a Pavel Zacha, go to the Kings for, a possible pick like that? That's what I mean. Like, stuff like this that we just heard is coming into the possibility for the Bruins. That's why I feel like this time of year is so crazy for a team like this right now where the Bruins are, trying to rebuild, trying to come into this season as, a new and improved team. But throughout the draft, throughout free agency, right now, you know, it's just making things so much harder on the Bruins to kind of, if you're moving on from a guy like not necessarily more geeky, but a guy like Pavel Zacha, who's a bit older, but don't really know where his future is going to be with this team. So that could be something to keep an eye on. I don't want to say yes for sure, but the LA Kings, we know they like their kind of forwards that can play the center, can play the wing, good on faceoffs, good on defense. They like that style of play. FMGPing, I think that is my, I shouldn't even say I think, that is my standpoint as well, I think, right now. Unless, and I'll say that, unless it is for a Matt Barzal or Noah Dobson. One of the two. I'll even count Bo Horvat out of that. If it's one of those two, I think that's the only way we can do it. I like Pastor McAvoy as a captain. I think Hampus will make sense for captain. That, I could also see something like that happening. Someone out of the way. Now, I think the only thing that Marco Sturm would want to do with that is to give it to someone a bit younger who we know is going to be here for longer because 31 years old, although he just have 5 years left. Where, I don't know where the screenshot is. Lindholm, yeah, here we go. I just don't know how long he's going to be here. That's one thing that I think is just where questions are being raised. But I think the only options that they're given are McAvoy, Pastrnak. Victor, I'll say it as well. I completely agree with you. Swayman does scare me right now, but he can bounce back. It's just I need to see it first. I really need to see it, and to make not just for excitement, but to calm my nerves. Because if we see a new and improved Bruins team next year, Swayman starts to play bad again. That's 8 points. I can't remember the number. I felt like I said it so many times in my brain. And even on the videos, when that contract negotiation was underway, that I tried to wipe it from my memory. But that contract is so expensive. $66 million by 8 years. If he's not great again this year, they could be in some serious trouble. So Sweeney taking McQueen at 7, that's one that, I spoke about in a video before. Wouldn't be mad at, but if it's a reach, I think I wouldn't be great. But the injury history is a bit questionable. That's the only thing in my mind that really puts me on the edge a bit for him. But apart from that, I don't hate it. I haven't heard of the McDavid rumor with LA. I don't know what that is. I don't like that though. He got to be coming to Boston. If he's going anywhere. Rossi to Boston. That's one that we spoke about a little bit as well earlier on here on the stream, which won't be too much longer because we got the NBA draft coming up here in a little bit, and I know some of you guys are Celtics fans or fans across the NBA, and I don't want to cut into that too, just because I'm kind of curious as well. But I do hope a Rossi trade could happen if it were a bit cheaper. If that would make sense to me. He is a great player, great young player, kind of fits what the Bruins are wanting to do, although they do want to get a bit bigger. Marco Rossi is not that. That's my only bit of concern there, really, for him. Swayman's a more expensive sewer skater. I wouldn't go that far just yet, because he's shown he's good. But now, this year, if last year repeats itself this year for Swayman, I'll put him in that category. But all we can do is pray that don't happen. I'm begging. Yeah, I agree with you there, Mr. Magic, as well. I don't think McDavid's going anywhere. It's so hard to kind of say that. I think the only reason we're seeing all these kind of stuff come out now is because he said he's going to take his time trying to get this Oilers team built back up and then go from there in the next few seasons. But, he ain't going anywhere. He wants to win there. Jake O'Brien interviewed by the Bruins today. Where is he projected? So when we go back and look at the mock draft, currently 9. We saw him at 7 at one point. Or, it could be an option. I don't want to count it out, but where the Bruins are, because we just spoke with Roger McQueen, Jake O'Brien, Victor Eklund. I've seen a little bit of, but those three names, 9, 10, 11, and even at 8, I think that the top 7 are going in the top 7. I don't see anybody dropping out of that. I don't see anybody moving really into that. So I think the Bruins are going to get whoever's remaining out of those. But there's names like Jake O'Brien, like Roger McQueen, that I would certainly be okay with as well. And I'm not exactly sure what McQueen's injury was, but, if combine events and everything seem to be good, but I think there's just that little worry there from some teams where he is a bit of a bigger forward, likes the contact. I think that's where he is kind of jumping into that spot of team's not too certain. Yeah, if he can stay healthy, though, he is a serious deal. And that's one thing as well. If he had stayed healthy, where would he have gone? Where would he be up higher in this? If Matthew Schaefer stayed healthy, do you think he could have dropped? Obviously, he's amazing. He's an amazing player. But could he have maybe had a bit of a bad season after that? After, the World Juniors where he did get hurt? There's so many things that are putting kind of uncertainties into this that we don't know for sure. So, that's why I'm so confident with the Bruins keeping this pick at 7. Even though there's reports of them trying to move up, I don't think there's a bad pick here. I haven't spoken about Radim here, but once again, a right-handed defenseman could be a great addition here. That's one thing that I think the Bruins may kind of go a bit off the board on. Apart, I wouldn't even say McQueen, O'Brien are off the board. We've spoken about them. But all signs have been pointing towards a center or a winger. I think that's their biggest need. So that's why there's so much news about them. But Radim could be an option. Could be a very interesting option as well. I'm not exactly sure what Roger McQueen's injury was. I will search it up, though. Because I'm actually curious now as well. The injury was a fracture in his lower back. Yeah, that is not great. That is that's a tough injury to kind of go about. We saw as well. I mean, who just said that there? Ben Bryan, like Caden Lindstrom, back injury there, didn't play this season. That's very tough to kind of go out, and you're kind of putting this in my mind now that just say, by some sense of the imagination, the injury causes Roger McQueen to drop. And you see, like, I don't know who follows the NFL here, but you saw what Zadorov dropped to the 5th round. Wouldn't be that extent, but if he drops to a late first-round pick, could he be an option to trade back or trade up into the first round once again and go and get? That's one thing I think we should keep an eye on. Might be a bit crazy out of my opinion, but that's something I think could be a sneaky good option to go and take a look at here. What do I want to see happen for Boston this year? Okay. I got a few. Okay, stick with me here. Number 1. Now, this is not in any order, but this is just kind of what's coming to mind. I want to see Henry Jokiharju back on this team. I think that he unlocked a next level of Nikita Zadorov that we didn't see all season, and giving him an opportunity to play here and try, to get into the system. Of course, as he did get traded to the team in the trade deadline last year, he didn't really have that time to really adjust. Giving him that time to adjust, playing once again with Zadorov, I think that could really unlock that line. And as we kind of go and look, a $3.6 million deal for 3 years, don't hate it. And going to look at the defense, you need that right spot. It would be a cheaper option. Will be a bit more of a risk compared to some other players, but I'm okay with it. Next thing, I want to see Fraser Minten. No, I mean, this is not really a move, but I want to see Fraser Minten in this team next year. I think that he's going to be a very sneaky good player. He's someone that, played 2 games, I believe it was last year, is a player that a lot of Leafs fans liked. I want him to be very good on this Bruins team so that Leafs fans have to see him play every night and do unbelievable numbers. A bit of a bold take. I think it's going to be good, though. And number 3, I want to see a solid winger. I want to see, like, not just a solid winger. I want to see a real good winger. I want to see a Nikolai Ehlers-style winger with this team. You know, I want to see this team be able to have a top 6 option and 2 very good scoring lines. We need depth scoring. We need to make this team just that much better. Like, this team is not far off. You know, last year, team looked a bit bad. A lot of injuries, a lot of call-ups from the AHL. But when you put this team fully healthy, players playing to their potential, this team is not bad at all. And I think that this team, with a little small additions like that, but the $23 million they have to spend, they can make this team back to the playoffs again next year. You know, I'm getting a bit hyped now because of this, but this makes just so much sense to me. I have it structured in my mind that this would work, and I want to see it happen. I want to see it happen. Now, if it will happen, I don't know. But having Fraser Minten, I think that's one of the most underrated things here in this year. If we see Fraser Minten come out here, be a top talent for this Boston Bruins team, be someone who can play in the top 6 if need be. Middle 6 is perfectly fine with me. Throw him in the 4th line if you want. If he's good and he goes out here and plays insane, Leafs fans will be absolutely distraught about that trade. And I cannot wait to see it. I cannot wait. Love it, Victor. I love it, man. Fraser Minten, it got to be the guy. He got to be just for not even just old time's sake, just for the Bruins' sake. Trading Brandon Carlo. There's reports of him trying to leave Toronto, trying to get traded out of there. You know, if things like that happen, they trade him for nothing. They got Fraser Minten. We got a first. Oh my God, I'll be ecstatic. FMG thing. There was as well a quote today, and I put this up here before you were in here, I believe. I wanted to pull this up. Don Sweeney had this to say in the press conference a little while ago. I'm currently in discussion with Henry, seeing if we can bring him back. We have a need on the right side. There's no question about that. So they're in contact. But if he can come into this lineup again and make it work, I think it'll be a good one. But if he's not interested, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be a tough kind of tough haul to try and get him back. There's been some reports about the Leafs lately, and with Nick Goss on Leafs Digest, he's a good buddy of mine, talks all the time about the uncertainty what's going on with Knies and Tavares. And if Knies falls down, what about an offer sheet? What about an offer sheet? Take him from that team. I know you're giving up the picks, but even if Knies is somewhere in that idea of being able to be claimed, you got to do it. Will Zellers, that's one player as well that, he's going to be playing in North Dakota this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's playing in his NCAA year, first time this year. He's going to be very, very good. He's going to be very good. And I think, that's one they got to wait on. There's no point in rushing him yet. I think bring him up when he's ready. And that by the time that he's ready, the Bruins will be back into that, deep playoff runs. I feel confident about that. So I'm excited to see that kind of come over here in a few years, but I'm not rushing him. I want to see these stats continue to pile up, and especially after getting him for Charlie Coyle, that's a steal. That's just a steal right there. We want to see you and the TD Jumbotron gunning Beer's first preseason game. I don't know about the preseason, but I'm planning on going to a Bruins game this year, and if that comes to happen, I'll be letting you guys know down there. But I'm planning on going to a game. I want to go to the season opener. Don't know if it will happen, but I will be down there for at least a game this season. Guaranteed. And Lucas, this is what we spoke about earlier. Absolutely. I think Porter Martone is the cut of a Bruin. Guys like Brady Martin, Roger McQueen, great players. But Porter Martone is a top 5 pick. I think there's no doubt about that. And if he can drop to 7, you got to take him. You got to take him. And exactly, you guys are like kind of pulling exactly what I'm thinking right now. FMG thing. The pairing that I saw with them, I was questioning it at first, but it looked so good. I was genuinely surprised with how good that pairing was. It made Zadorov look phenomenal. He's a great player. No doubt in my mind, but he looked way, 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 way better with Henry Jokiharju there. And I don't know why. It's just the fit of those two players together must have worked, and I hope that that's kind of enticing to Jokiharju as well. I think you guys are saying as well, chemistry is a very big thing as well. Chemistry that this team has to build, but something we didn't have last year. We had no chemistry. I think a lot of chemistry was kind of ruined with Jeremy Swayman. Not putting it on him, even though I am. That it just wasn't really that. Like, the team didn't start off on the right foot. I think you need to do that here when you go into a fresh season with some changes being made. Was that Michael? Was that on my graphic here for the draft? I don't think it was. Was it this one here? Sam O'Reilly. I'll have a look. I'll correct that if it is wrong, but I wouldn't doubt that is correct. That is correct. He's a plus 56 on. But now the London Knights were a phenomenal team this year as well. Won the OHL again. They were a very good team, but yeah, that's kind of crazy. Is there any plus minus is not on this one here, but there's some crazy plus minuses in the CHL. I think that's one thing that a lot of people are kind of shocked by, and especially when you see one like that where you see a plus 56, it's kind of crazy. Zadorov, I think, still is an option for a trade, but I think if they can find the right partner, and I think that what saved him was that play with Henry Okiaru last year. He looked really good. I think that kind of saved him a lot there on that side of things, but I still wouldn't count a trade out 100%. Brock Besser signs with Mike. Yeah, I did speak a little bit on that earlier. I'll kind of go over it again here real quick before I finish the stream off here. But I think there is a possibility Brock Besser does. Now, the contract would be a little bit expensive. I do have it here. 4 by 6.5. That's not correct. That's actually Morgan Geekie's. It would be an 8-year deal. I forgot that was not in this one, but it would be a $8 million deal for, I believe, 6 years, something like that. So it could happen, but I think there are better players that you can get for that exact same price, maybe even older. Like, I feel like a Nick Ehlers is a guy who is older, but still just seems way better at that age that he is, and could be making that money, a little bit more than that money, but would be a better instance. So I think it's a possibility, but I don't know for sure. I think, I would give it probably a 30% chance. All right, guys, I think I'm going to finish one off here because we have the NBA draft in about 20 minutes, and I have to go head over to a buddy's house to watch this one, see where things go. But hopefully, if you guys are Celtics fans, the Celtics do good. And if you're not, hopefully your team does good as well. I don't watch basketball, so, I don't really have an input here. But, I always just love watching drafts. I think we're going to be very excited, though. I'm getting ready. I'm getting my pregame going on the draft cycle for the NHL draft on Friday night. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you are at this point in the stream, you're still watching here on the stream, be sure to go hit the sub button. We have a lot of content coming over these next few days and weeks, and you've been able to see me post 2 videos a day for the past couple of days, daily videos. Going to be trying to do more streams like this, especially during free agency, during the offseason. We get some more news like this, some more hidden press conferences like there was a little while ago. But we have a lot of stuff coming, so I don't want you to miss it. And we do have another outro graphic for those who like the intro one. We get a new intro video. Be sure, if you were also just tuned in, when this ends and this goes up as a video, watch that little intro video and let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'm very curious. I made that today. I know a lot of our company, all the digest channels have it. I made it today, so I want to know what you guys think. But that's all I got. So if you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well, and maybe, Victor, maybe we do go live for the draft. I'll have to figure out and see, because I don't know just yet. But I do appreciate all you guys being here. First stream in a while, and we're trying to get more of these done, and this was fun. So I do appreciate all you guys, and I'm Snap, though. Thank you for watching. See you later.
Crash the boards, break the chains. Ice is cold, but we're aflame. Skate the line, fight the game. Bruins Digest, call the name.